instructor's there. The next thing you hear is woo, woo, woo. And then I hear this woman's voice shouting, put that effing phone down.
We were in a car at the time?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And there was a...
We were blind in the police helicopters again with your laser or something.
That would be an idea, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you do something for insurance purposes, make sure. That's alright. What chairs are on? It's not leaves like size. Okay. Cool. Welcome back, everybody. Hello there. Right. We're obviously going to do the next section, then have a break at some point. And then we'll obviously do the last section. Play it by ear basically. The chances are, I used to do half-hour breaks. I realised that was a bit long, but it also meant that the sections were a bit long, so chances are we might be finished in the rounds of 5:30 as opposed to 6 o'clock. But only if we've covered that which I've got in my head needs to be covered today. Otherwise it could be 6 o'clock. So, right, going back to before lunch, every single thing that I say as we go along, all of it is relevant in some regard. Rather than me repeating it all, remember all of it is relevant, whatever I say or do physically. Might be different physical things going on, but all the underlying principles are exactly bloody same. In terms of underlying principles, Chad Vera, who founded the Samaritans, coined a phrase, don't do something. Don't just do something. Sit and listen. That might be slightly paraphrased, but it was roughly that. His point being, because obviously he wasn't doing all this physical stuff, was that, you know, quite often people in life just... The issues can quite often come down to either self-confidence, self-esteem, or self-image. Which in some categories could be called confidence, but self-image, the way they think about themselves, the way they look, self-esteem, the way they feel, self-confidence, self-explanatory. And that pretty much any problem or issue can pretty much be a lack of one of them. Because if you were totally confident in yourself, 1,000,000%, you wouldn't need it. You wouldn't, you know, you wouldn't be scared of something as such to the level that you'd class it as a phobia, because your confidence would say to you, "Fine, but I'll survive it." So as much as there may be a phobic reaction, it is on some level also a lack of either self-confidence, self-esteem, or self-image. So if in any therapeutic intervention, actually that word still works, that we do or use, we can make people feel better about the way they feel about themselves, self-esteem, the way they view themselves, self-image, and the confidence they have in general, self-confidence, then we're guaranteed to be hitting one of the 3 triggers, underlying causes, call it what you will, rather than spending ages and ages to try and find out which one of them it is. Okay. Target them all. That way you're guaranteed to be covering the right one, and you can save time and move the person along for further quicker, so they're feeling better quicker, and the better they feel, more relevant to long-term problems like drug addiction, alcohol. Smoking pretty much can be as quick as we did earlier. But the more you can get them seeing results, the more they can buy into the idea that this is worth sticking to, and the commitment, and they're getting somewhere. Because quite often it's that feeling, overwhelming feeling of they may have tried, if they're ready for change, they may have already tried on some level to do things, but every time it's not worked. So it's knocked them down more and more. So if you can have more and more little bits chipping away going, result, achievement, you can eventually get to the point where the wedge is big enough that the tree falls down and the change can be made. That's when we're getting high-end, deep-rooted shit. But it's important to think about these things and know it. So some approaches will tell you, I find which one of those is the trigger or the button. I'm a lazy sod, you could say in one regard, or you could reframe it NLP-wise and say, well, no, I'm more efficient. It's guaranteed to be one of them, so concentrate on them all. And if I may remind you, key phrases I use, certainly like the mini thing before lunch, was, you know, whatever it may be, whatever feels right for you. It could be your self-confidence, your self-image, your self-esteem, or it could be, alright, so you might fill in the other blank, but you might decide it's for whatever. But the fact that I've still said self-confidence, self-image, self-esteem means on some level that is still a metaphor and a visual image for increasing your confidence, willpower, self-esteem. Whenever I awaken people from trance, we won't go into the debate of whether that exists or not, it's irrelevant, as long as you get the result. When I bring people around, get them to open their eyes or whatever, whether it's a count from 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, my conventional awakening to 1 to 10 for CMT, but that's kind of it's relative to how long they've had their eyes closed. The longer they've been closed, the longer an awakening thing I do, because logically it makes sense that it would be longer because they have their eyes closed longer. And you know, I'll use all those key phrases and phraseology like, you know, every nerve, fibre, tissue and muscle in your body, from the tips of your toes to the tips of... I'm not going to say it again because you know what I said. It's stuff, and I'll say it more in a really feel-good voice, and so that in itself is a suggestion. And I will, when you saw me doing it physically before, rather than your eyes being closed, I am physically making movements like, yay! Because it makes it easier for me to sound that way. That's the little tip. If you make the physical movement, it makes it easier. So when I'm doing the relax and sleep, I won't make a yawny face, because it will naturally, at some point, make me yawn, which as I speak, yeah, it's infectious. It's suggestion. I'm doing it right now. What's it? By the way! And, so yeah, I'll do that because it makes it easier. It just makes it easier, and you come across and you sound more, it sounds more improvised. By sounding improvised, even though it isn't, because you're starting to guess I use all these key phrases, just in different contexts, it sounds as though you're giving that person specific individual attention, which means that it's good for their ego and will make them feel better, whether that's to do with self-confidence, self-image or self-esteem, which I'm yet to find a problem or issue that doesn't fit into one of those three: self-confidence, self-image or self-esteem, or a combination thereof. I will say, as someone who is now clean, an ex-drug user, it was, as bizarre as this may sound, it was a confidence combined with self-esteem thing. That's not why I started taking it, it was the thing everyone was doing, the celebrities that were partying with. But that's what it sort of made me feel better about, so it became addictive. So it's always one of those things. And you know, as human beings, we have basic core needs, wants, cravings, desires. And I know this contradicts some books, but it's just my model. Okay? We all want to feel either loved, wanted, needed, and that is slightly different than wanted. Needed, appreciated, I've got to say it verbally. Love, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for. Appreciated, cared for, or cherished. And you could possibly add into that, although arguably those things do on some level cover it anyway. Valued. If you want to fuck someone's head over, they're the triggers to push. If you want to sell somebody something, a product, they're the buttons to push. I.e., if this product is going to make them feel more cared for or better about themselves, or about, they're more likely to buy it. If you're treating somebody, these are all the underlying core triggers, call it what you will. And sometimes in life, we get ourselves into situations, or, you know, everyone does at some point, to a greater or lesser degree, but it can become more extreme, where a little tiny thing we avoid, because when it happened, let's say, we didn't feel one or more of them, we didn't feel loved, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for, cherished or valued. So it becomes painful. So we do everything we can to avoid that happening again. This is contradictory, but there's two, it's like everything, there's a balance. So this is not doing something we want to do in life. We're avoiding it. So it could be a phobia. We're scared of something because the time it happened, it was only a little bit of an issue, but nobody around us that we thought should care showed us any of these. So that makes this even more negative than it should have been, naturally causing the person to want to avoid it. And next time it happens, because the person, the people surrounding them don't quite understand that, you know, all they needed to do at the time is happen, it'll be alright, it's too late by then. Next time it happens, this amplifies. So, the trigger, whatever, let's just use phobia as an example, it doesn't have to be, but they're seeing another spider. Or it's like, oh, what are you kind of, it's not such an issue. And they feel even less love, wanted, needed, appreciated, which makes this even more painful. Even more of a reason to avoid it. And so that unfortunate pattern can continue in many different contexts. That can be relevant to alcoholism, drug taking, anything. It's common sense. So in order to be able to knock bits off this mountain, chip it away so that it's no longer there, so it's not an issue, that person needs to end up feeling loved, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for, cherished and valued in those type of situations. Which all starts off by making them feel that they've got the right self-esteem, self-image, self-confidence. Because to start to get back the feelings they require, they need to be projecting them in the first place. Because sadly, as human beings, we do tend to resent mirror people. It needs to, it's no good just saying, you know, I really would like some support when that happens. That's not enough generally. It needs to be a conditioned response, and that intent's got to be there. But we can't just say to people, you've got to show the intent. That's sort of belittling, they perceive that as what they're feeling. But that's what we need to give them the ability to do, so that what they're projecting, they receive, so that they receive what they need. So that then it starts to chip away and break away. Now from the other angle, because that's stuff they're doing they don't want to do, there could be stuff they're not doing that they want to do. So we use public speaking because it's a great simple example. And the first time they did public speaking, they might have forgotten a little bit of what they were going to say, and one person could have coughed, and it could have been just that they had a cough. But to this person at the front, nervous, first time, that's like non-verbal, well, this is crap or whatever. That's how they perceived it. So they don't feel loved, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for, cherished or valued. It belittles what they're doing. So even if at the end they got a round of applause, they'd have been focused on that negative. So they will then want to avoid that for the same reasons. you need to be able to turn it around. It's back to that pain and pleasure thing, so that they do feel loved, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for, cherished, valued, and safe. A key motive, desire of pretty much any individual, so that you can chip away at that to make it such that it's no longer an issue. Again, I know it sounds like I'm really simplifying this, and ultimately I'll admit, yes I am, but it's what works. We as human beings, and I include myself in that, at the end of the day, tend to feel more positive, happy, healthy, generally everything, if we feel that we're loved, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for, cherished, valued, and safe. If any one of them is in, like, you know, not balanced, you're going somewhere where you're watching your back so you don't feel too safe, other things are going to be off because your mind's distracted. If you don't feel appreciated for something you've done, you're going to end up building up resentment. It is all positive, negative, or pain, pleasure. And that's sort of what we're doing through these tricks, and I'm using the word tricks again, but techniques is rewiring those things. And you know what, yes, to an element, we as therapists, change workers, whatever, can rewire all this, and it should be pretty much sorted for the client, unless they're in a really negative environment. Now, with smoking cessation, fine, people at the pub might go, oh, go and have a fag, you normally do anything. And to be honest, if you've done your smoking session right, cover tomorrow, it won't matter, because the person might try one and then end up feeling like they want to throw up. More of an anchor that they definitely don't want them. Job done. If it's someone who had a cocaine, heroin, whatever addiction, unless they get rid of their circle of, and I use the term very loosely, friends, circle of associates, the chances are they will relapse. And that's not you failing at your job. It's just that it's a numbers game. There's more people giving them negative input than the positive that got them off it. So they will relapse. Unless they break that circle, the chances are they will relapse. And there is sadly very little you can do except really concentrate on making the person feel loved, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for, cherished, valued, safe, giving them feelings of self-confidence, self-esteem, self-image, in a positive fashion, obviously. Other than, and this is something that with someone with a, I call it high-end problem or issue, problem being negative, challenge, NLP would say to you, is fuck it, no, I'll use the term problem with them, because that's using their language. Which means you're going to get better rapport than, you know. Is you do ideally need to, you need some, we all need our network. Whether that be friends or family, we need some sort of social network. There's very few people, there are some out there that seem to operate better on their own. But even the greatest business people, you know, they've got at least one or two people near them. They have got some form of network. So whether it's on a very low level or bigger family, friends, link level, we all need as human beings some kind of network of support. Now, the thing is that sadly, and I am modelling this, or stealing in real terms, from my good friends Nick and Eva Speaker. In life you have igniters, draggers, and I forget what term Nick uses, but I'm just going to put couldn't care less here. You pretty much get three types of people in your social group, unless you take control of what's going on around you. You've got your igniters. These are the people who, it doesn't matter how daft your idea is, they might say, alright, they might go, okay, you want to fly to the moon tomorrow morning, bit of a problem, there are no public flights available, but yes, Richard Branson is going to be doing flights and stuff out of space, save up the money and do it. So they're still encouraging you, they're igniting you to live your dreams. Then you've got draggers. It doesn't matter how realistic your idea is. They'll just go, that'll never work. Don't want to drag you down because it makes them feel better because they don't get enough of their arse doing it. Then you've got the couldn't care less. Now I don't mean it's that they couldn't care less. They could love you to bits as human beings. But whatever you say, they'll just go, yeah, so whatever. They won't say anything negative. They're not going to drag you down, but they're also not giving you a kick up the arse. Positively. Okay? One of those three. Every human being on the planet is one of those three. Now, the biggest thing you can do to help your clients, but you can't be seen to tell them, you've got to bring them to a point where they decide this for themselves, and this is very important in your own lives as well. And I don't want this to sound like a happy-clappy, change-your-life event as the weekend goes on. Although I would hope on many levels that you realise that when you leave here today and tomorrow and things start to sink in, the positive changes are going to start happening in your life. Because the biggest change you can make straight away is cut out any draggers from your life. And I mean cut them out. You might have to bump into them in the supermarket. Doesn't mean you have to say hello and stand and give them the time of day. And yeah, that'll upset some people. But guess what? It won't fucking upset you. You'll end up automatically having a far better life. And yeah, the fucking draggers will probably be so pissed off they go start spreading shite about you and stuff. Right? Then, as the old saying goes, and it is a cliche, you'll find out who your real friends are. And if it means that you lose some perceived friends, so what? Because you don't want fucking draggers in your life. It's those twats that put you in a psychological mindset that makes you want the escape, whether that's to cloud out the problem, drown it, escape totally with the drug. They are ultimately, on some level, although they're not consciously aware of, perhaps with the intent, although some fuckers are, but the majority aren't, in fairness, consciously aware of it, but they are trying to drag you down and kill you, for want of a better phrase. You don't want those twats in your life. But it's not for me to stand there and tell you how to live your life. I think pure common sense tells you that. People go, yeah, but I like the security blanket of these people there. What? The security blanket of the people there that are going to drag you down even fucking more. And brainwash you. Because we know now it's all about repetition. What gets repeated. If it's negative, it is going to be a negative end result. If you're repeating positive, ultimately the end result, because the changes that will be made, however fast or slowly, will be positive. Which is exactly what you want and what is going to happen for each and every one of you. By the way, in NLP this is called visual or spatial anchoring. I'm putting all the negatives here, and when I talk about positives I put them there. So even then, when I don't bang on the pen, when I talk about something positive and point it that way, it's already setting off a visual, psychological anchor in your mind of positivity. Just got to throw that in so you do understand NLP by the end of the weekend. Right. The igniters, these are the people you need to, well, you want to keep them close. The people that really encourage you. Doesn't matter how daft your idea is. Alright, if it's that daft that you say, you know, I've devised this machine that means I can fly off that mountain. And I'll be and something like this bit. And they think, it might not work. But as an igniter, a dragger will go, you can't, and really drag you down. An igniter will go, you know what? If you have, you're going to make it absolutely brilliant. But maybe you should test it on a dummy first. Because they'd have your best interest at heart. They want to when it worked on the dummy, then they'd be like, go on, go for it. But they'd have your safety, your fit, everything at heart. These are the people you want to associate with as much as possible. And I'm not doing some arty-farty, winky-wanky shite, but I do not associate with, as a rule, unless they pay me a lot of money, the backstabbing, winky-wanky, fuckwit hypnotherapist, stage hypnotist. The ones that I do tend to associate with the people I've taught, because they're on my wavelength. The people who've gone through the same kind of shit, because there is an empathy and we will kick each other up the arse, be igniters for each other. And you know what? That's why Rob's here today. He doesn't need to be here this weekend. He doesn't need to know any of this. He's out there doing it in the real world. Well, as he's not got a show on this weekend, he could have had, but I'm so glad that it's here. Because he's like almost, you could say, a psychological security blanket for me. Aside from that, he's going to share some good stuff with you. We're going to have a laugh tonight when we go for it. But I can come up with bizarre ideas and run them past Rob, and I know he's not going to go, that. It's fucking ridiculous. He might need tweaking, but it's still going to help push me forward to making it happen. And then you've got your couldn't care less, which are neither negative nor positive. They're fine. They're right, as long as you spend more time with the igniters. Now the trick is identifying who's who. Do you know what? It's not that fucking difficult. If you're honest with yourself, you already know who the igniters are, who the draggers are, and who the couldn't care less. But what stops us from identifying that? Our ego. Or our lack of self-esteem, self-confidence, or self-image. Because we don't want to feel that, you know, the wisest thing would be to, for some people, say, look, fuck off out of my life, I don't want to ever see you. Right, other people might be more appropriate to go, look, take it offensively, I'm sorry, there's not much I can say, but we won't be going out on that day of the week anymore. Every context is different. But you've actually got to take action. If you do things the same way, you'll get the same result. If you do things differently, you'll get a different result. And I suppose to some level, as much as I hate to admit it, although it's not a case of hating to admit it, because I'm talking psychology, but some people term this as cognitive behavioural therapy, to give it a title, to make it a separate training course on its own to take money off you. But it is essentially what gets termed as cognitive behavioural therapy. Or, in layman's terms, being fucking honest with yourself. And getting off your ass and taking some form of action. Now that's applying it to yourself. But this, quite often, more than not, is, combined with everything I've said before, the key difference between helping someone make a major change in their life or not. And I'm putting the emphasis on major, because smoking cessation and stuff is pretty damn easy anyway. This isn't too much of an issue. But stuff like alcoholism, drug addiction, sexual addiction, heavy freaky shit, this can be the massive fucking difference between whether it's going to, you might get some change for them, but it's the difference between whether they continue down that positive path or relapse. And if they relapse, the chances are it'll be 10 times worse than it was originally. I'm seeing nods from Kim. To be honest, in this environment, I feel, I'm going to ask you if you don't mind, Kim, I do treat people who are alcoholic or drug addicts now and again. I probably don't see more than, in the space of a year, maybe 12 people, just because they can't raise the money. And I know that sounds heartless, but I'm not prepared to see people for free, just because of what I spoke about before. How accurate to what you're, because you've got way more experience dealing with substance abuse than me. I hold my hands up. I guarantee you will have dealt with more people than me, just because you're doing it all the time.
Yeah.
How much does this ring true to?
Very much so. Yeah, very much so. I mean, I didn't want to disclose too much this morning, but I'm in recovery myself, just over 10 years.
Which, to be honest, any good person, I wasn't going to say it, I guess that would be the case.
Yeah, you might guess from my Facebook page as well, because I suppose a lot of people on my page are igniters, actually. Do you know what I mean?
Brilliant.
Because it's all about, for me, on a personal level, and also in terms of my work, 'cause I wouldn't do the work if I didn't believe in it.
Yeah.
And in that sense, it's about changing your playground and your playmates. At the end of the day, as I say, you know, if you sit in the barber's chair,
I'm loving
get a
that,
haircut.
Kim. Right, I'm going to model that, NLP says, I'm going to steal it. The playground and playmates, I'm loving that, because what we've just been talking about, some people call cognitive behavioural therapy.
Yeah.
You could call it inner child work.
Yeah.
That's another title it gets given.
Yeah.
Because at heart, we are all kids. If we're honest enough about it, we all do like to have a laugh sometimes when no one's there to judge us. We can get this. Sometimes some people need the alcohol to get to the point where they feel they can be that daft. Other people might need a bit with, or it might just be you've got to be around certain friends that you know aren't going to say anything. But everyone does like fanning around and having a bit of a laugh on some level. Because people don't always admit that, other than to people that fit into that particular group. We all do. And yeah, it can be, you know, that our inner child, us, our personality is the child, might just need that bit of love and attention. Oh shit, we're back to that, wanting to feel loved, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for, cherished, valued and safe. Why is that? I wonder why that's the same as cognitive behavioural therapy and inner child. That's right, it's all the fucking same. We're human beings, we work one particular way. Unless there's a severe chemical imbalance or a physiological bad brain bits cut out your brain or a genetic defect, we all operate the pissing same, with the exceptions of those few. And that's why I said right at the beginning of the day, you've got to work on stereotypes, as much as some of the conventional books will say no.
Can I just take you back to
Of course, Stan, yeah.
the couldn't care less group, say whatever. What was your approach to those people?
The people who say whatever, you know, fine, keep them in your life, the couldn't care lessers, because they're not going to give you anything negative, they're not going to give you anything particularly positive. Drive you, it's totally sort of like, yeah, if you want to do that, fine. Fine.
Could it be they're not really listening?
It could be for some of them, but doesn't matter. The point is, it's not negative. They're not draggers. All right, they're not igniting you. You want as much as possible to spend time with igniters. In an ideal world, always with igniters. The trouble is, life being what it is,
It's
you
not,
know,
it's
a lot of your igniters will bring you into circles where there are, more often than not, most igniters will only bring you into contact with people who fall into the igniter and couldn't care less section.
I would say, because I mean, basically, if you break that down, it's basically positive and negative. So as far as it would be easier,
balance.
yeah. So that they couldn't care less as I don't know what they call them, but whatever that would be, it would be. You've just got to watch them because it would be quite easy for them. It's easier for them to drop. If you get to because if they're deemed to not care less, if you get to a point where your ideas, your ambition, your whatever is boring them, it would be very easy because they've got quite a mundane life, saying they haven't got the ambition you have, and that's why they couldn't care less. It would be really easy for them to, in this case, drop up, but in terms of in their mindset, sort of become bored of you almost, not of you, but of you and your whatevers, and then drop down into the draggers category. So the only thing I would suggest is they're very, very unlikely to elevate to an igniter stage, but it would very, so I would say keep them in your life, and it doesn't really matter, but just keep an eye on them, and the very moment they appear to be dropping into the dragger category, then you need to.
Yeah.
I suppose, like you said, the positive and the negative, they fit into like the neutral category. And I suppose if you're spending all your time with those kinds of people, they literally could neutralise you. Do you know what I mean? So if you've got all this-
Without a doubt, however you look at it, whichever model you want to use, igniters are the people you want to be around most. They're the people that you listen to.
I've been through all this and got rid of all the people who were dragging me down, including my wife.
Oh, no, that's
Oh yeah, it can be. No, you know, it's sad.
Happy family
It can
members.
be.
Yeah.
Can be family members. It might mean never speaking to your mother or father again.
Yeah.
I don't speak.
And it can be that fucking severe.
Yeah, I don't.
If you can identify it's them that's dragging you down, never speak to them again. Sounds
That's
hard,
I'm
but
at
still do
that
it.
point where I'm making decisions. I'm literally, I know it's taken me 7 years to work it out.
And it's all about healthy boundaries as well, because sometimes it's, you know, for whatever reason, it's not practical to cut someone out of your life, but it's how you choose to relate to them or how much you let them in.
Practicality is cutting someone out of your life. Call me a cunt, but alright, I can think, alright, there is an example. I was going to say, you just cut them out, simple. But yeah, if you had a relationship with someone, there's a child involved, at some point you may have to encounter them because, you know.
Well, I mean, I still see it, but actually
you don't have to tell them about what's going on in your life,
That's
alright?
what I mean, healthy boundaries.
Kid might.
Yeah.
Your child might. But then when daddy, mummy, whichever way around it is, starts going, oh, I believe you're doing this, that, the other, and you just go, you can choose to go, yeah, so just...
Yeah. My 3 children are obviously all adults, and they don't have much to do with her at all, because she's so negative to them as well. And I haven't poisoned them in any way, shape or form. They've actually realised this. You know, in fact,
sooner or later people do.
In fact, I actually I never say anything bad. If they say anything bad, I actually correct them.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, you never slag mum off. I say, well, why should I? You know,
She's doing a good enough
she's
job.
just, she's poisoned you.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
It's,
This is so important.
but falling poorly, obviously, straight away, any big situation, you kind of learn, don't you, very quickly that you can't, I didn't know the names for them exactly, but you work out. And
Well, these are made up names.
But you can see very clearly the categories, and it's taken me all this time to work out. And I'm just at that shift where I'm like starting new. Today's my start of something new and something big for me, and all those people, I know who they are and what I'm doing now. I'm doing that shift, and I've got to, and I'm not having anyone else bring me down anymore.
I always call, you know, we're in effect pack animals.
Yes.
We're like that, and you just need to get a different pack.
Yeah, that's another way. Well, I was going to get onto that more tomorrow, but you're quite right. Pack animals. We are, as human beings, our brains, such as it is, and the way we think and talk, sets us apart slightly from apes and other animals, although there's lots of similarities. But yeah, we are pack animals. We react totally differently in groups than we do individually. And we react in relevance to what the nature of that group is. Unless you're really wired up and thinking about, well, that then you could say it's cognitive behavioural therapy, you're thinking about what's going on, what you're going to do. But then, you know, that tends to then be the person who's doing that isn't necessarily a cunt, but the group will perceive them as such because not conforming to that group. And if conforming to that particular group isn't getting you where you want to be in life, then yeah, you need to find a different group, a different pack. And it can mean saying, hey, pack your bags, fuck off. Or packing your bags, leaving. It could mean never speaking to a member of the family again.
Most of my friends, I ditched them or just ignored them for a long time. And then a few people that were actually good in my life, I spent more time with them, and then they introduced me to other people.
That are also good.
In that group,
Yes.
And some
Makes
of
room
them
for them,
even
doesn't
more
it, for
positive than
people?
they were,
Yeah.
which was great. You know, they were
You know, I promise you this, if you go home, and I'm not going to ask you to do it and I don't want to embarrass people, if I did, I'm sure I could bring everyone in this room to fucking tears to some level. I can assure you, from experience I could. And it would, aside from being highly entertaining for me in a perverse manner, would also be very therapeutic for you, but you can do this in the privacies of your own home. Take a piece of paper and a pen and write down as far as you know and understand to the best of your honest belief, by what is displayed, by what that person does, by what they appear to own, by what they appear to spend, which could be bollocks, they could be in their eyeballs to death, but just as you perceive it. Who has got the most money? Put that number one. Number two, but who you think's got the next and biggest amount of money? And number three. Now, obviously, your perception could be incorrect, but you won't be far off, generally speaking. And then write yourself a list of, put a line under that, and write a list of 1, 2, 3, and write down the names of the 3 people you spend the most time socialising with, whether that's physically or speaking to. And this day and age, whether it's conversation on the net. Do that. Relate the 2 lists together and see how similar or different they are. If they're similar, you might be on a bloody good path. The chances are you'll find the difference. Okay? The chances are, if you, right, this is one example, you can use this in different contexts, but if you feel that you know some people who've got more money than you, and it's like, how the fuck have they managed that, or whatever, the chances are you don't spend enough time talking to or around those people. They will be different on your 2 lists. Because pretty much it has been shown through studies, if you take the names of the 3 people that you spend the most time talking to, socialising with, and find their average income between the 3 of them, that will be give or take either the same or more than what you're fucking earning and going in the bank. Because we are products of our environment. And it's about identifying those 1, 2, 3. And that could be a relationship of 2 lists. Who do I spend the most time with people? And then next 3, who do I feel are doing best in the context of something I want to achieve in life? And I think you'll find that if you're not quite achieving what you wanted to achieve, that you're not spending enough time around them. It can be put into many different contexts. And these are things you can do for yourself, and it's, if you like, homework exercises you can set to people that need it, not maybe for smoking cessation, but for high-end problems such as drug addiction and what have you. And I'm getting nods of recognition from Kim, so I'm guessing you do similar things already. So this will be, the nods are telling me that, you know, you've got more experience in that particular field than me, but yes, this is making sense. Because it is sadly as simple as we were all born, unless there's a genetic reason, obviously, or a deformity or whatever, or brain damage, we were all essentially born the same. We look different, but we all work the same. It's our environment, our conditioning, our upbringing, our influences over the years, and they say the formative years are 0 to 7 years old. I would agree they're the most important, but this carries on constantly through life. You could have had the best upbringing you'd ever, been perfect till you were, say, 25, and then something traumatic happens in your life and you just end up round more draggers and everything can fucking crumble. So it is something, this is it is a lifestyle thing as well. And if you truly want to empower your clients, it's about putting them in a frame of mind that's going to help them positively in all areas of their lifestyle. And by lifestyle I mean the way they think, feel and respond, not just a case of, you know, buying that food instead or going to that place. It's way more in the psyche and mind thing. And you know what, I shouldn't need to do this, but I am actually going to apologise, because anyone who's seen my DVDs or events before is probably thinking, dude, hang on. It doesn't normally get this fucking serious and deep. No, I don't. But I am doing this weekend on purpose. That's why I've started to give people sets of DVDs where I'm way more jolly and Mr. Outrageous to go away with. I'm telling you stuff beyond that I normally do. Just because I've got to the point where, frankly, I don't particularly like spending time with clients. I will, now and again, for a bit of extra, but I don't particularly. Prior to sort of up till now, there's certain little bits, and it's not a key secret, because if you worked in a certain field, you already knew it. It's just about knowing to apply it to another field. But there were certain things I did keep quiet about, because an old Chinese saying, the martial arts masters come out with, you know, you may teach your student, to, you know, they've got different names for martial arts style, and some of them are like the tiger style, and you might teach them that style, but you don't teach them the final bit of how to run up the tree. So you've always got the escape route if they suddenly become almost as good as you. You always hold something back. and I can tell you now that truly, sincerely, having studied any of my stuff before, you may have on a very low level seen me talk about that, but you won't see me in any positive sense talk about CBT, or inner child work, or igniters, draggers, couldn't care lessers. But this combined, an understanding of this combined with what you're doing, so on the low level you're giving that kind of intent, but if you do choose to go the higher end of clients, you can chip away that bit further when you're doing your questionnaires, your background. I'm leaving questionnaires till very much towards the end of the weekend because they are so fucking important, it's unreal. Certainly with high-end clients. Doesn't really matter with smokers, no. So, but there's certain levels where the questionnaire will give you information they don't even fucking realise. It gives you that wedge into the door to start chipping away to make that change happen. It is manipulation. We are using mind tricks. We are manipulating. We are doing things that are a bit, but with positive intent. And generally speaking, because the person's asked us to and they're paying us. So there's nothing naturally negative or unethical about that. It's when you call it politics or religion that it starts to get a bit dodgy. Well, I won't go too much more into that, because the stuff you walk away with does. So yeah, I'm going to say once more. Igniters, draggers, couldn't care less, call them what you will. You want as much or as many of the igniters around you that can mean changing your environment. We are products of our environment. All of us, each and every one of us. You show me a multi-millionaire, and I guarantee, I will bet every money in my fucking life, that other than if they feel that little bit sorry for them, or they haven't managed to quite cut the tie, so they still send them a bloody Christmas card, and if they bump into them they'll go, I'll get you a drink, and then they'll make excuses and leave. They won't associate with members of their fucking family or so-called ex-friends who are drug addicts. They may initially offer to pay for them to go into detox because they want to ignite them and help them change, but if that gets thrown back in the face, they'll cut the fucking ties and walk away, which is the best fucking thing actually, because by so doing it's more likely down the line that individual who's addicted may wake up, smell the coffee and seek help. The person, you know, sometimes the families can be dragging down the person by still showing them support when frankly the person inside knows what a fucking shit they are and the fact they need to change, but why should I bother? I've still got these links. Sometimes those links need to be cut and that pain created towards them for them to be motivated to move forward and make that change. And you know, that's on any level in life, but I know especially high level that you're nodding because I'm talking from experience of having been there as the addict and helping other people, but nowhere near as many people as you obviously encounter. And it's as psychologically fucked up, negative it could sound, because it sounds like I'm talking loads of negatives here. I am, but they're all positives in the context that you're going to use them on yourself or with your clients. Does that all make sense? Because I know it sounds suddenly really heavy compared to this morning, but these are the things that are the difference that will make the difference.
I mean, I suppose it's an issue I have in my work sometimes, you know, because I'm all singing, all dancing, and I feel like I'm putting sticking classes on different areas of their lives, and sometimes I wonder if I'm being an enabler in some ways. Do you know what I mean? Rather than letting someone hit their rock bottom, you can't get your fucking benefits.
To be honest, you probably are.
Yeah.
But you have got certain legal constraints in the context of working for a care agency.
But it's the harm reduction model,
yeah,
isn't it? So
that you've got to, you know how ridiculous it is now? People that go into jail, who perhaps may be addicts, they're weaned off, okay? And they go through detox, this, that, the other. When they're due for release, they're given the option of being weaned back on to methadone, so that if they go back into their circle of friends, rather than being on cocaine, heroin or whatever, they're addicted to methadone and they can get their supply on prescription. It's the new thing in the prison service to make people addicted again before they leave. But to me, I'm not lying, am I? This is
true.
It's fucking ridiculous,
Intoxication.
frankly.
Yeah.
But that is what is going on.
Well, the rationale behind that is to
There'll be less crime if they're getting the supply.
well, from more a kind of yeah, it's always the public safety angle on it, but it's about clients not overdosing when they first have a hit when they leave prison.
Yeah, well,
it's bollocks.
that's
really.
self-protection for the prison service, because ultimately, in my world, if you can somehow, and some countries do it very well, sadly not England, can make that person feel loved, wanted, needed, appreciated, cared for, cherished, give them something of value, something more. It's possible for that person to actually leave prison and not go back to drugs. If things are done right. And it is possible to get them to a point in themselves where they want to disassociate from that environment. For some apparent reason in England, the powers that be seem to think different. But that's a political debate we won't get into. It's the psychological underlying factors that are important about what I'm talking about. And I hope this... Is that a question, or is that a...
No.
That's the body language of uncomfortable recognition of stuff relevant in your life.
No, just one.
Now, one was well, we're having a break in a minute, but I know there's at least 3 people in this room, without pointing them out, that are slightly uncomfortable about what I've been talking about. Myself included, frankly, because unfortunately, to talk about this stuff, I'm having to admit to myself and to you what fuck-ups I've made. And still do on certain levels. But these things are the difference that will make the difference. I promise you so much. Okay, I'll tell you what we're going to do, because people are getting warm. We're going to have an early break, so it's 20 past now on my watch. It's 20 past now on my watch. By 25 to, let's be back in here. Get some fresh air, get a drink, pop to the loo and stuff. And then we'll get back to some physical exercises and demos and stuff you can use. But bearing in mind that all of this does apply to them.
I get hot too easy, and then I feel like I just want to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Well, you've got 15 minutes for a quick.
That's cool. You probably covered more in the last hour than they do on a CBT course that lasts 2 days.
Thank you for saying that, Kim. I didn't want to be arrogant enough to say that myself.
Well, you
but
go on
yes.
these CBT courses and they're so dry. You sleep for like more than half of
On the
it.
graveyard shift, you'd be asleep.
Yeah. Just flick that off a second.